All right, Bruins post-game show, game one. Evan Marinofsky, Conor Ryan, you know us. Tough one for the Bruins, 5-1 loss. Not the greatest start to the series, especially after what looked like a pretty promising, at least first 10 or so minutes of the first period. Conor, what was your initial reaction to this?
Yeah, I think probably the first thing that sticks out to me is just the fact that it was a missed opportunity to kind of land a haymaker against this Carolina team. I think when we look back at the previews that we talked about on Poke the Bear and Bruins Beat, we mentioned that this was a good opportunity for the Bruins to kind of get out to an early advantage against this Carolina team, especially when you don't really know what the deal is with Freddie Anderson and who's going to be a net for them. So we got a guy like Antti Ranta who first postseason start didn't really know what to expect from him. Had some chances early. When you look at the first, as you said, 5 to 10 minutes of that game, where Ranta had quite a few second chance opportunities there. Figured it was you stick to the script, you keep on getting shots on net, you're gonna have some chances, but didn't end up working out for this team. So you look back on this again. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but when you look back, this is a game that the Bruins. You hope they don't kick themselves for that they weren't able to kind of get that early opportunity against a team that's still trying to find some traction in net.
I mean, Jake DeBrusk could have had 3 goals in the first period. That was what was wild. Was he had that chance with Brendan Smith where he took it off the goal line. He had a puck bounce off him. I mean, there were chances early, and I think it's come down to this with this Bruins team. We saw it against Pittsburgh a few weeks ago when there's so many chances, but there's not any conversion on those chances. And I think when it gets really concerning is it wasn't Freddie Anderson in net. And as you said, we mentioned this on Bruins Beat and Poke the Bear. Like, you got a chance here with Antti Ranta in net to maybe get a head start on this series a bit and to have 40 shots and get 1 goal, and the 1 goal to be kind of that fluttery, fluky one from Taylor Hall, who we'll get to in a bit, is not great. Is not great. And I think one of the places where the offense really does not look good is the power play. And you saw it on full display tonight. Was not only is that Carolina PK terrific. I mean, that Carolina PK is ridiculous. They stack the blue line. They play. Ty Anderson said they play like they have 6 guys on the ice. But that Bruins power play did itself no favors with just doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, as you said, Carolina's PK is legit. It's the top ranked unit for a reason. But especially look at that third period power play the Bruins had there. Wasn't like Carolina was doing really much of anything, right? They were stacking the blue line, and Boston was just being stubborn with it. And that's kind of a trend you've seen with this Bruins power play this year, especially when they've been kind of falling into a slump. You know, Cassidy's talked about it many times that it's just being stubborn with it, not switching things up. I mean, in that situation, they were Carolina's not giving much at the blue line. Dump the puck in and go to work, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not you have the personnel. You have guys with speed like Taylor Hall on that line. You've got guys who have scored in this league for a long, long time. Dump the puck in, go to work, and generate your chances there because you keep on sticking to the script against a Carolina PK that is pretty legit and especially has the firepower to go down the other end of the ice and make you pay in that regard. You got to switch things up there. So if they're not giving you much, you have to adapt because keep on running into a brick wall at the blue line isn't going to get you very far in this series.
Yeah, I mean, your best bet, again, as you said, dump it in and chase it in the corner. Again, it's not easy against Jacob Slavin and guys like that, but it's still a better chance than just maneuvering through, going off to the side, and then looking to do something off the high half wall. So, again, would you now? It's funny. One thing I want to get to is Matt Grzelcyk, who had a tough night alongside Brandon Carlo. But do you think they need to make the move to Matt Grzelcyk on the power play? I'd mentioned this on Poke the Bear. Do you think that they need to go to him now?
I mean, I don't think they have to make that switch now. If it continues to struggle a little bit, maybe that's something that you switch up further down the series. But I think for them, it's not really about personnel that's the issue with the power play right now. It's just strategy and learning to adapt and roll with the punches when a team's not giving you much. So it may not play to the Bruins' strengths in terms of course, they'd like to have clean entries over the blue line, but Carolina's not giving you that. I don't know if personnel really changes that. It's about just dumping the puck in, as we've said, and switching things up. So further down in the series, maybe then you change because again, Carolina's a team that pressure's high, so maybe a guy like Grizzly further down can move that puck and avoid those chances where it's a turnover up high, let's say. But in terms of right now, I think it's just strategy as opposed to personnel.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, and McAvoy, by the way, had a pretty solid game in game one. So, I mean, it's not, and it wasn't really him. And you mentioned it was just those dump-ins that kind of continued to plague them on the power play. One thing I do want to get to, and I mentioned Grizzly, tough pinch on that third goal, which was the backbreaker. Again, like
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, it's funny because, and someone tweeted this at me, the game obviously could have went a lot of different ways, as any hockey game can. But there were a lot of missed chances early in the game for the Bruins. But there was also, they score that goal to make it 2-1. There's some hope. Taylor Hall goes down and immediately hits the post again. Then Taylor Hall comes down again, misses high over the net. Grzelcyk pinches. They go down the other way and score. Um, People are saying this is kind of a recurring thing for Grzelcyk. I don't know if that's really the case. I mean, it was kind of just one stupid mistake. And then Carlo kind of misses the pass. Who was the third? Who was the first forward back on that? Was it
Was it Smith?
Bergeron or was it?
Oh,
It might have
was
been
it?
Smith.
I think it was this. I have to look at it again, but
Yeah, it was one
it
of
was a
them.
complete. I mean, it was a complete breakdown at the worst possible time. When you look at just how the momentum was swinging in that game, when you had to feel good about how it was trending with Hall and that second line, seemed like they were generating some chances, and then to have a pinch like that, I mean, it's you can't do that against a team like Carolina that has layers and has the ability to do that quick strike counter rush. And I mean, it was a great pass, setting up that goal as well for them. So you just can't have those opportunities against a team like Carolina that thrive off of making offense out of good defense.
Yeah, no, I mean it's again, and again. I think one of the things with Carolina that we've always focused on with them is they capitalize on mistakes so quickly, and they
Yes.
take your mistakes and they throw it back in your face so fast. Unlike some teams might not do that, and the Hurricanes are very very good at kind of making sure that that happens. And one thing you really can't have is some soft goals. And it felt like, again, that maybe the game was out of reach at that point, but the fourth goal off of Omark's head that bounced in. The second goal was a bit debatable. I don't know. I don't think Omark really saw it. The Niederreiter shot
Yeah.
for the second goal. Not totally sure he saw that. So the question that everyone's going to be asking, I think, over the next 2 days is, do you go to Jeremy Swayman in game two? And I think it's a really tough call because you can look at this game and you can say, well, they need a wake up call. They need, Olmark's numbers weren't amazing, but he did make some big saves. He did make some big saves, and it is only going into game two. Do you throw Jeremy Swayman out there for game two?
I probably wouldn't in terms of just. I think you look at the way the momentum can swing in the series, and this is also the issue that we've talked about with the pros and cons of adopting kind of a goalie tandem and net in the postseason, where every single swing of momentum, every single play gets magnified over the span of a 7 game series. So you can make the argument that Swayman you could put in there and gives you a boost of momentum and locks it down, but if he struggles, which he wasn't really playing his best hockey over this final month of the season, if he struggles as well, and all of a sudden you go back to Boston down 2-0, then you're kind of in limbo, right? You're already, the momentum's not on your side down 2-0. And then, all right, are we sticking with Swayman? We going back to Allmark? Sorry, we, pulled you after 1 game, Linus, but we need you to stem the tide here in game 3 on home ice. It's one of those damn if you do, damn if you don't situations. So I I would probably stick with Olmark just for 1 game. Again, that Trocheck goal, not great. Again, it's kind of at that point, game was slowly kind of getting out of reach, but it's definitely a tough call though because again, you're juggling so many different things between the goalies, how they're kind of settling into a groove, and then you make a slip up. Again, you go back down to Boston in a serious hole.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a big question, and I agree with you that Olmark I think should get another game. It's hard to kind of just keep pulling the goalies back and forth. It's like when Tom Brady used to get taken out like after a quarter with Brian Greasy back in the Michigan days. Another thing I want to talk about is the Jordan Stahl versus Patrice Bergeron matchup. This was one matchup we kind of had circled. We figured that when the game was in Carolina, that Rod Brindamore would try to go for the matchup of Stahl versus Bergeron. I think when they're back at the Garden, I think it'll be Bergeron versus Aho, which is a much favorable matchup for Bergeron. Um, I don't think Bergeron played particularly bad. I don't think he played particularly good either, that line. It just felt like they didn't do a heck of a lot after a few of those early chances. And again, Jordan Stahl got wrecked by McAvoy to start the game, which is very tough because that would happen to him back in the bubble. How does a guy, not how, because obviously Patrice Bergeron's Patrice Bergeron. But do you see this sort of matchup? Because this is a matchup that you're going to have to deal with in Carolina for 4 of the 7 games. If it goes 7 games, how do you fix that? How do you make sure that if you're the Bergeron line, how do you get around that?
Well, I mean, for them, it's just sticking to kind of the game plan you saw earlier in that game, where it's just kind of more or less putting pucks on net, and especially if it's a guy like Ronta in there, the chances are going to be there for let's say a guy like DeBrus. But that being said, it's also incumbent on, I think, the rest of your lineup and your secondary scoring to alleviate that pressure because Rod Brind'Amour knows he's got probably a pretty favorable matchup there, at least to break even if he sticks with that stall line on Bergeron. So then it falls on the hollow line, falls on the coil line, which was dreadful tonight. The third line didn't give you
Yeah.
really much in that game either, which you desperately needed. But it's easier said than done, though, right? Because you've got Stahl on Bergeron, but also you look at how Brind'Amour kind of matches it up. He then puts probably his best defensive pairing with Jacob Slavin, who's probably one of the more underrated defensemen in the league, on
Oh,
Hall,
yes.
Pasternak, and Hall as well. So they have the depth there to make things very difficult in terms of just what those hard matchups are going to be. So it's for, I think, just kind of doesn't depend on what the line is, but it's about keeping things simple and just getting pucks on net and crashing the net, especially because Carolina is very good at clearing out those rebounds and avoiding those dangerous second chance opportunities. But whether just sticking guys down low or just getting more offense out of, let's say, the coil line, it's got to be kind of the best way in terms of getting past this kind of matchup that you got out there right now.
Carolina is the perfect team, and they play the perfect way to make up for Antti Ranta in net. The rebounds, again, you saw it early in the game, you saw it later. He'd make the first save, but the rebound, and kind of didn't know where it went. This is the team. Jacob Slavin, guys in front of him like that. That's who helps get the puck and steer it clear. And as we kind of come to a close here, the big question, aside from the goaltending, everyone's going to say, is this series over or not? I'm going to say it's not. I don't think it's over. It was one game. And I think this is one thing that, people live in the moment, and I get it. We're all for the moment. But
Evan,
everyone kind of looks.
you didn't hear the Maple Leafs are winning the cup.
No,
It's one
that
night
is
in.
true.
Yeah.
Yes, they've
Game
won
one.
game one. They won the cup. They've won the first game. They're not playing the Bruins in the first round. They're playing the Lightning. They've won game one. Done. They've won. They're winning the whole Stanley Cup. But it's one game. And that's why I don't see any real lineup changes to make. And I mean, if you want to move Trent Frederick off the third line, but again, I think there was, that line worked during the regular season for portions. I don't think you pull the plug after one game. There was nothing on D that, you can say Grzelcyk didn't play great, but who are you replacing with? Who are you replacing Grzelcyk with? You're not taking him out of the lineup. So I don't see any big lineup moves either. So to me, I don't look at this as the series is done. If I see someone say the series is done, I mean, come on. There's still many games left. Now, again, if that was game 3 and this series was 3-0, different answer. But from what I saw tonight in game 1, I can't sit here and say it's done. I think this series is still going to go 7 games.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is going to be a long haul series, and it's against two teams that you look at the way just Carolina's built, and we've talked about just the matchups and the depth they have. It's going to be tough. There's not really one set blueprint in terms of how you get the better of this team. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of momentum shifts, and when you look at the way Bruins are constructed, especially in net, it's going to be, I think, every game, whether it's a win or a loss, where you're going to be, I think, toggling and weighing what's kind of the best move into the next game. So yeah, I think this one definitely is going to go the distance, and it's going to be a slog either way. You looked at just how many hits there were in this game. I imagine that's going to continue for this entire series. It's going to be a pretty contentious 6-7 game series.
For us who tweet highlights, those hits are
Busy.
definitely a good thing. Do you
Yes.
have any change to your prediction? Because you had Bruins in 6, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least 6 or 7 games. That was, I think, always the expectation going into it. Not ready to shift any of predictions or anything yet. Again, one game in, I don't think you want to run too much with how these series go. What is it, in 2019? I think Bruce Cassidy said their worst game that entire run until probably like Game 7 against the Blues was I think that first game was I
Oh.
think that first game against Toronto, right? They just were, I think, lifeless in that game on
Oh,
home
that was
ice, right?
awful. They were
So
terrible.
again,
Yeah.
yeah, again, a lot can change over a 7 game series. Not to put out the pom poms or anything like that, but again, I think it's just important. It's game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Everyone's very riled up, excited. See how you build off from here. And that's not just the Bruins; it's every series going into this postseason.
And I will match your pom poms. I remember after game 1 of the Cup final in 2019 when they beat the Blues, I think it was like 4-2. There were I was walking to the ice with a bunch of media people, and they were all like, "Oh, Bruins have won this series. Bruins are going to win the Cup." And I remember being like, guys, one game. It's one game. And Okay, the series just ended after Game 6. It was weird, that Stanley Cup. Just they
Yeah, it's
stopped
very
playing.
odd. They just stopped. Yeah, it
Odd.
was-
I don't know what happened there. But anyways, we will continue to have coverage for you throughout this series. What can the people look forward from you, Connor, over at Boston Sports Journal?
Yeah, we're going to have our regular daily content. We'll have game reports, columns, features, video breakdowns. Maybe we'll take a look at that dreadful Bruins power play, which might be the shortest column ever of just like, yeah, this sucked. This was terrible. Carolina didn't really have to do too much
5
there. But
words.
exactly. Yeah, it's a very, very brief recap there. But we'll have all that stuff over at BSJ. So please subscribe at bostonsportsjournal.com. Want to follow me on Twitter? You can do that at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. And that is Game 1. Not great, but things look to be potentially, maybe, getting better in the series. We'll be here. That's Connor. I'm Evan.